Welcome to everybody in this latest upload, which is a change from the usual format that I do, because what I thought we could do in this session is have a look at the Hammant and Morgan Duets, which I've just recently installed for operating my layout. Now, for those who are familiar with the uploads that I've been doing, I've used Hammant and Morgan before, but they were the executive and commander units as opposed to the Duet, which were a transistorized powered system, which according to the literature they were operated the trains on a much smoother basis than the standard Duet. However, one of those transistorized units, I'm not sure whether it was the commander or the executive, actually packed up and gave up the ghost. And I'm not sure what's wrong with it. I might decide to get it sorted out at some point or other. But in the meantime, I've put in these Duets, and I thought it would just give us an opportunity to look at these things in a bit more detail, because they're still very prominent. For those of us, obviously including myself, that don't have DCC. So I thought we'd have a look in a bit more detail at them. Now, the first thing that you notice, certainly I noticed, quite striking, is that the front of these units, there's an awful lot of information on the front of the control panel. And this is not something you see on control units generally. It's bare minimum of information. You have the rotating knob, you might have a switch, it might say forward, reverse, and that's it. But if we look at this, look at the amount of information that's on here. So you've got the actual operating knob, which rather strangely says normal and reverse rather than forward and reverse. And that seems to be a feature which is particular to Hammant and Morgan when they were in their heyday. Normal is a relative term, reverse is a specific term, so why they didn't use forward, I don't know, but there we go. So we have normal and reverse. We've got sort of independent output, 12 volt DC, 1 amp into the track. We have the information here, Duet, that's the model, protected by automatic thermal cutouts. And here are the interesting elements here, where you've got a high and low resistance switch and a wave switch, half and full. And that's a rectifier which gives a partial AC pulse power into the track for extremely slow running. And again, we've got this information about the I suppose the electrical system of the country that's they sent these units or exported these units to. So on here is the standard UK one, input 220 to 240 volts, AC only at 50 hertz, which is the basically the grid that comes into your household. And it also indicated this is a class 2B, I think that is, double insulated. And again, there's a notation here for the Duet. No earth required. The manufacturer, and of course that how would I say it? Made in England, that very proud statement there, Hammant and Morgan. So that's the front of the unit, and then we've got the same information here, which is for the second track, to control the second track, hence the name Duet. So this is a two-track system power controller. Also on this unit, you've got on the left hand side Here we go. 16 volt AC sockets there, so at the side, if we can just move around there, we can see that there are outlets for operating points and any other functions that you might want on that. On the other side of the unit, and if we go right to this one on the other one that I have here, you can see there's a further 2 outlets here. That's it there. And with that you can connect a slave unit, a slave controller, to power a third circuit on your layout, or for whatever needs you have. So it's got the facility of linking up with other units as well. The other thing about these things which makes them, in my view, quite attractive and so great to operate and look at is the sheer solidity of these units. It is often said that they are bulletproof, and in a sense that is very much the case, because if you look, if you're looking around for one of these units, they're still quite readily available from the usual sources. By Jove, there are some which are very, very well used and almost quite quite knocked about, but they still work. So what I'll do is just show you these are almost virtually in pristine condition. I've had these a long time, and you can see, and again, there's the connections on the back which link to the 2 tracks from this unit, and then the same again on this unit. What I've also done with these is if you just put them on a flat surface and you're operating them, they can start to slip around quite a bit. So what I've done here is actually put them within a frame, and I just used some bits of garden wood, some garden fencing, cut to size so that they slot in, and you can operate them accordingly without them slipping around as you're using them, because some of these switches are quite stiff to operate. So keep them on full wave, get on low resistance to begin with. Low resistance. So let's see how they operate. So I've got some Wren locomotives on here, which are actually ideal for showing the capabilities of these, because the existing power controllers that are around, I can't speak for them all, but certainly the Hornby 2000, which I have behind me over here, if we just move round, these operate my trains very well. I've got no problems with them. They're good units. Although they're made of plastic, they're very, very solid. They're quite substantial. But the Wren locomotives, with their power consumption, do not. They give up, and these units cut out after about 2 circuits. So they're not ideal for operating Hornby 00 or Wren. But apart from that, they are good units. They work very well. But again, you can see there's to operate forward and reverse, you have to move these switches at the top, which is a little bit fiddly, a bit inconvenient, I think, rather than having this, go from one side reverse and the other side forward. But you can see also that this one I've had longer, and it's virtually worn out what printing there was on it. Now that's not something which you normally get on an H&M unit, and they actually made a statement of that in their catalogue. I know you do see some with the things worn out on the Duet, but generally speaking, if you treat them properly, there's no reason for them to wear out. But anyway, let's see how they operate the Wren locomotives. So, and we've got City of London. Now that's on low resistance, so if we put on, switch that to high resistance, as you can see we can get a bit more realistic slow speed on that. And if we want to try, let's try the half wave to see how that operates on this. So we switch that, switch that. I think also, particularly with these locomotives from Wren and Hornby Duette, I could probably demonstrate this more effectively if if I sort of run them to warm them up a bit. Now, it's generally in model railway circles, it's not recommended to use that half wave switch all the time, continuously on. You know, because it will have the potential of overheating the motor, but so what else have we got on here? I've got an 8F, so let's do that in reverse. And the other thing to note about particularly these models, the Wren and Hornby Duette, is that they're all different. The motors for the models are identical, but they all sound different and they all perform with a degree of variation. They're not all exactly the same. This one's a beautifully quiet running model. Some of the ones I've got are quite noisy. Okay, so let's get the Royal Scot. This is Lancashire Witch, a Wren model. This has got a 5-pole motor. So let's see how we go here. Oh, it's very smooth. Reverse. There's just pure enjoyment just seeing these run. There's something else. And we've got a West Country class on the outer track, Dorchester. High resistance going on, didn't make much difference there. So yeah, that's an example of some Wren locomotives. Now I'm going to put on some Triang Hornby, so I'll just quickly get these off the track. Now anyone who's interested in the Hammant and Morgan controllers, for whatever reason, there's a very good website of a business which actually sells them, maintains them, repairs them, and refurbishes, reconditions them. And I'll put that link in the description. Let's bear with while I get these on the track. Struggling here. Finally, done. Right. And this one's a bit easier. Okay, so let's have a look at the first one that I've got on here, which is a Triang Princess class. So this dates from the early to mid 1960s, and it's let's have a look. Princess Victoria. So this is with low resistance. Now actually Triang didn't produce this locomotive in the viewing that you're seeing here, because they utilised the earlier chassis, which didn't accommodate the Walschaerts valve gear, presumably to use that tooling up. So this has had a new chassis, and I also that the body on it was not lined out. The only lining out on it was on the tender and the cab. So I painted on the red lining out on the locomotive and on the fans on it. So that's a Triang, and then we've also got on here is a mainline Jubilee. And put the high resistance on. Quite a noisy models, and the motors weren't too good, but this one isn't too bad at all. And we've also got compound, which comes it's a motor. The motor is actually in the tender, and that's also 40 years old. And the slightly later version, China version of the B12. And as you can see, that just goes straight out of the blocks like that as soon as you turn it on. So we definitely need the higher resistance on that. and it's still, no, it's the wrong one I pressed, there we go, that's it. So that's the using the high resistance controller. Anyway, that's okay. I'll end it there. Thank you for your viewing, and let me know in the comments what you think about this, and I'll see you again.